Hey everyone, Julian here. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make modern hardgroove techno, Molekül, Chlär, Airod, Lucas P, that style. This stuff's really bubbling up right now, and today we're going to be talking about how to make it. To go along this video, you can grab the full project file, samples, MIDI, presets, the entire template from this video that you just heard in the intro is available at the top of the description on my website. Definitely go grab that. It's a really great way to take your tracks to the next level. This will give you a really solid foundation to build these tracks on. There's not a lot of stuff out there for this style. This is going to get you right. Links at the top of the description. Thanks for the support, guys. And let's dive in. Alright, so we're on 144 BPM, right? You know, pretty nice, upbeat techno, right? So the first thing we have is a sidechain, right? Just a little click. And then we have the kick. So what's happening here is we have two of these layers are just the kick, right? So we got our main. Just this nice punchy 909. And then what I did is I took that same sample and then we're distorting it. Oh, and I made it really short over here with the envelope. You distort it and then high pass. See, and if you take that away, like in the whole mix, what it's doing is it's adding a lot of punch to the kick. So you can hear here's with it, without. It's like the kick is a bit more buried. This is a great way to just add that extra bit of punch to your kick without having to do a whole bunch of like over processing. So then those are the first two layers, and the second two layers are the bass line. So what we're doing here is we have a rumble, and then we actually have a synth bass. Right? It's a really simple bass line, just straight 16 notes. You can see they're really short staccato, so you get that tight groove. If you make them touch each other, it's not really going to hit the same. Right, so we got that. It's really just one note and then it jumps up at the end. Just gives you a nice little groove with the kick. And then the rumble is like kind of... So that's really like the bass line, right? And then we've got the rumble sort of on top of it, but not really adding bass. So the way you get this to be like a nice fat, almost like rumbly bass with the synth is we're using a sine wave with a little bit of FM from another sine wave. FM is really good for this, because you can get these really full sounds like this that still have the sub. Then we're low passing it, side chaining, and then there's this here, which cuts out some sub. It's going up pretty high. You know, these tracks really don't have a lot of like heavy sub weighing them down. You want to cut that because that's what's going to keep it really nice and like airy and still grooving. And then we're just cutting a little bit more highs and mids. So yeah, and then for the rumble, so it's the kick with some reverb, low pass, sidechain, pretty simple stuff for a rumble, right? But it's just the fact that we're cutting it at the end so that it's going to fit with that bass line. And it can become this one nice like moving thing. And this is really going to set the foundation for the groove of the track. You know, we could talk about loops all day and all that kind of stuff, but if this isn't grooving, none of that's going to work. So on the whole groove there, we just have a little bit of a high pass. So the high pass is right here. Right, just cutting out that rumbly kind of like sub that you don't hear. And then we're converting the whole thing to mono. So then we got our hi-hat and our clap, right? We're starting with like, you have to get this groove down first. You can't do all the loops and bongos and percussion until this. This on its own has to be grooving, right? So we've got this. What it is it's two hi-hats just layered. This one, these are like these crunchy vinyl hi-hats, and it gives you a nice texture. Right, it's not just like that standard 909 that we always hear. I'm really trying to get out of that box. I think you can do a lot without having to use those same sounds that people use all the time. And it still grooves really well because it's still hitting in the mid-range. Right, so then we have a clap. Yeah, just nice and punchy. It grooves well with the kick. So then is when we start getting the percussion. You can see this is a lot of percussion because it's also kind of like about structuring the track. You know, it's not really that much other stuff in the track besides percussion. Like if I take all that out, it's really just like a little vocal sample and then like a hi-hat and kick and clap. But if we add all this, so it's almost like a style of techno where it's like the percussion is the lead, right? So it starts here with this bongo. This was the first thing I added, right? You can see it just adds that perfect amount of almost like tribal techno sort of groove, right? This stuff is very tribal techno influenced. And it's really repetitive. It's not even a full bar. It's literally just this half note that keeps repeating over and over. That's a big part of this groove too, is like loops that aren't that long. Just that same thing over and over, but it works so well. Then we have this rave loop. So this is from my Ultimate Hard Techno drum library, and yeah, this is just like this nice kind of crunchy. It's adding some mid-range, but if you hear it, it fits really well with the other one. Like they kind of fit together because they're very different things, and that's the key to this, because you're going to be layering a lot of loops and a lot of percussion when you make this style, and you really have to understand that like it's not just having the best loops or anything, it's like having the loops that fit together the best. Like if you can get these kinds of things where it just comes together to build one thing because they're both so different but they groove together, that's what you're aiming for. Not just like a bunch of stuff on top of each other clashing, right? You have to be very careful. There's a bit of sidechain. You know, it's simple. Because when you pick these, you're really picking them for the texture they have. You don't want to over-process them. That's when it tends to get really messy. You want to find something that kind of already has something cool and bring that into your project. We got this one. So now they're all kind of adding up, right? So we had these. And so now we're getting a lot of energy from these. Like if you take the whole... Right? And it's because there are 3 different loops that just do 3 different things that fit together really well. And this one has a lot of energy, right? Then we got this, which I chopped up. So I'll show you the original loop. Right? It's like this live percussion loop, and then... See, we're only taking a little bit, and that's another thing with the loops. At a certain point when you're layering all these together, it's like we've already got these 3. So we don't need something that's just steady, just constantly running. You just want like the stuff from this loop that's going to add to the groove. Right? You can hear it, but it's not just like constantly like egregious, just... Right? Because that would take up too much space with the other loops. It's like just enough of it that you need. We've got this as well. So now this is fitting in because so far we've really just got stuff in like the highs and the mids. And you can hear this just gives you that nice undercurrent like below all of those. We got a little bit of sidechain, high pass, and we're low passing it a little. Because you really don't need all that high end that's in there. Right? So we're just cutting that. We have a shaker. Very important that like that 16th note actually does add a lot of groove. Like if I play that. See what I mean? Like even with the foundation. And that's just being sidechained a little. We got this drum rack, which really fits together with this one. Right, so these are these drum racks that I grabbed. I brought in some bongos, and then this is one of the ones from over here. And they just have some percussion. I'm mostly distorting them. Like, it's just taking it, a little bit of delay, overdrive, and then high passing and side chaining, and then creating these little grooves. And the key to these is you really want to have all like this kind of stuff, and then add. But you see what that's adding, it just fits really nicely under there. And then this one as well, it's the same thing, just a bit of distortion, no delay on this one. Side chaining and high passing, but then that adds under all that. Right, so it can really add a lot of groove, and it's a nice way to contrast these elements that are just constantly chugging, just something that's like in there a little bit. We have this thing in the background. So it's these bongos, and then I pitch them up an octave. What you can do is you can if you change the pitch of this, you can just double click or right click on a PC, and then copy value to siblings, and then it'll do all of those at the same time. But I did that, and it's just a little it just pulls the groove a little bit more. Then the last drum we have down here is this ride. right? You know, pretty classic for these hard groove, kind of like Schranz type of grooves. If I turn that off, it works nice, but there's something when you just add that ride that just like pulls it along really nicely. And it's not being sidechained or anything. With these tracks, you're not going to sidechain this. With a lot of stuff, you want it to be really clean and fit in, but I think this makes it feel a bit more raw, and it just adds to this kind of a groove really well to just have it just like open like that. The last thing we got down here is the only thing in here that isn't really like percussion or bass, which is this vocal. So what's happening here is this is like a very chopped and affected vocal. What I'm doing is I have this, that little vocal sample, right, kind of like a funk, like, right, and what I'm doing is I brought that in, and then it's like taking very specific chops. Like you can see these are just syllables from here if you had this. So what you want to do, basically the way I did this is I had the whole thing going, right, you get all of this has to be like set. And then what you do is you get that vocal and then just have it here where you can chop it up easily. And I just sat there with different syllables. Like, I'll do it again. Like, if we take, like, okay, so let's get that, and then let's make an audio track. We'll mute that. Let's grab syllables from it. So let's do, like, that, and that, and then, like, that one. Okay, so now we have all these. Let's make this a little bit shorter. And see what I mean? It builds this groove. Now if we copy those effects on it. Right, so it's really not super hard to do, to be honest. You just have to find a vocal that has a good texture to it. And then again, having that groove already, because this is not made like, it's not something you really have in mind ahead of time. It's like, you think, okay, I'm going to get the groove, and then I'm going to have the vocal fit that. You really have to make that to the groove. And then for the effects, it's really just a bit of delay, right? Being distorted. That distorted delay is great for textures in this style. But you just want to make sure the delay isn't too heavy. I'm filtering it a lot. You don't want it to like get taking over. Right? Or if you did like, if you do that, it'd be kind of messy, right? So we got a little bit of overdrive. We're high passing it. And then we're just side chaining that. And there we are. So that's how to make modern hard groove techno. Thank you very much for the support. Everybody, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get this full project file, samples, MIDI, and presets, the entire template. It's a really great way to take your production to the next level today. If you grab this, I promise you'll see it like night and day. Your tracks are going to get better, especially for this style where there's not a lot of info out there about it just yet. This is going to really set you ahead of the curve and give you everything you need to make the best tracks of your life. Thank you so much for the support, everybody. It also really helps me. If you guys enjoyed these videos, definitely grab that because it's going to help me keep going so I can keep bringing you guys more. You can also check out my lessons, track finishing, and ghost production. Link for that's at the top of the description. Thanks for the support, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.